I was at a missions conference, and I spent 2 days in Nashville, a thing called Faith Leads Tech. It was about how to use technology to spread the gospel and have effectiveness for Christ. And I think the whole value of me going there was captured with this picture that I took of a PowerPoint slide from another guy, and I tried to get the actual slide from him, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him. So all you have is this picture, and it's a graph. And I'll describe the graph to you. This red line right here that you see is world population since the AD BC break. And it just kind of goes flat here. And then somewhere around 1700, it starts this exponential curve. And up here in the next 15, 20 years, we're looking at 11 or 12 billion people on the planet. At the same time, you've got this other thing that's graphed here. This little blue line is a graph of internet access in the world. And so today we've got, 9 billion people on the planet? Is that right? 8?
7.6.
7.6? Okay. You need to have more babies. And this blue graph is a graph of online internet access around the world. I think we're at about 3.5 or 4 billion. More than half the world is online right now. And this yellow, you can't see it very well. You'd see it if the projector worked better. This yellow swath right here is just the narrow swath of our lifetimes, the time that we get to be on earth. And as I sat and listened to the presenter explain this slide, I thought, man, we have never had more access to more people for the sake of the gospel ever. And that's when I realized that if Paul was alive today, he would be online and he would use a smartphone to reach the world. There's no question in my mind. He said, I've become all things to all people so that I may win some to Christ. And one of the ways that you become all things to all people, 4 billion of them right now on the planet, is by leveraging the internet. So we've got 4 key websites. You're going to get a very surface-scratching overview of our ministry. We've got 4 key websites. The first one is called issuesiface.com. On issuesiface.com, we profile 50 or 60 issues that people struggle with: divorce, debt, anxiety, depression, cancer, anorexia. There's a ton of them on there. And if you click on, this one is alcohol addiction. So if you click on alcohol addiction and you read the article, Issues I Face is primarily set up to fish for secular people. So this guy is a Christian who faced alcoholism and got through it, but the story he tells doesn't overtly talk about Jesus at first. The story is written in such a way so that when you get to the bottom of the story, you can't see this very well, but it's a mentor request form. And so what it says at the bottom of all these stories, you don't have to face this alone. Talk to a mentor. It's confidential, and then they can fill out their information. They can use a fake name, whatever they want to do, and they get connected to our mentors who have been recruited and trained. They're believers who are trained to walk with these mentees and encourage them and build some rapport with them. And then as the opportunity opens itself, share the gospel, point them to scriptures, get them plugged into a local community of believers, and it's very, very effective. Second website that we have is called thelife.com. If you went to thelife.com, a lot of that content is focused on targeting a faith-based audience. And so you'd see some devotionals, you'd see articles that are overtly written from a Christian standpoint, and it reaches a faith-based population. What we find, however, is that some of these people that come here looking for faith-based content actually don't have a relationship with Jesus. Or they do have a relationship with Jesus and they're in some kind of crisis in their life that they can't talk to anybody in their church or their parents or their family about. And so they're able to talk to a mentor who's able to disciple them if they're believers, or evangelize to them if they're not believers, depending how the thing goes. Julie is our content editor and one of our content writers. And she has written content for both issuesiface.com and thelife.com. I thought I'd let her say a couple words about that.
Yeah, basically I am a Christian writer, and I wrote voluntarily for about 7 or 8 years, and then they asked me to come on staff. And so my purpose is I recruit through the Christian community in Canada and the United States Christian authors and writers, and to produce the articles. And we have 30 online volunteer devotional writers. They write one devotional a month, and we have, they're thematic. This month we're doing the Gospel of Mark. Next month we're doing God's promises. And so they write these, and it's so amazing to mentor and monitor these 30 devotional writers and see how the Holy Spirit takes just the Gospel of Mark and leads them in directions that just are touching lives. And we have a little over 20,000 on this website. We have a little over 18,000 that get these free in their inbox email every morning for their devotional study. And then we have over 64,000 likes on our Facebook devotional page.
Great. Julie does great work. She lives in Texas. I live in Iowa. I usually don't get on pajamas or into the shower until 2 or 3 p.m. because I'm online. No one cares. It's one of the perks of the job. A third website that we have is thelifeproject.com. That is the website that just overviews the ministry and kind of gives you a snapshot of what we do. That's the only website that we take donations at. So none of this stuff is like, we're not trying to promote our name. We're not trying to grow our organization. We're trying to give a tool that the Lord is blessing to ministries and to like-minded people to leverage the internet for the sake of the gospel. And then the fourth website is called tmm.io. tmm.io, that's the mentor ministry, and that's where we send people. You can actually get there through thelifeproject.com. That's where we send people who feel called to become an online mentor, and they get trained online. There's an application they go through, a pastoral reference. They share their testimony. They're kind of vetted by our team, which is based in Langley, British Columbia, just outside Vancouver. By the way, we're a ministry of the Canadian arm of Campus Crusade for Christ, and so that's called Power to Change. And so those are our 4 websites. Now here's some exciting things. We've got a global reach. It started in Canada, and because of that we started out English and French. But now we're into several languages, and we're working on some others. We're in Spanish. We've got a robust Arabic ministry. We've got a woman from Iran who has just started some mentoring in Farsi. We've got Hindi and Bengali. We're working on Swahili and Mandarin and others. Really, we want to continue to expand our language footprint until it makes sense to be in as many languages as possible. Our partnerships are in various countries around the world. We have established partnerships in India, Iran, all over North America, all over South America, throughout the Middle East, parts of Africa and Asia. Pending, we're working specifically on Liberia and Uganda and Indonesia right now, and some others, and we desire to be everywhere else that there is internet connection, which is increasing more and more every day. We're excited about the mentoring ministry, and here are 3 reasons why. One is anonymity drives impact. So this is a private thing. Like, there's a story of a girl named Shania, and one of my friends, a 65-year-old woman, is an online mentor, and her very first mentor request came from Shania. Shania told her she was in a relationship with a boy that she didn't think she should be in a relationship with, but she wasn't sure if she should get out of it or how she would do that. And so the conversation, according to the training that Carolyn had, just kind of went along. She's asking questions, building rapport. Within 2 or 3 exchanges, Carolyn has learned that Shania was abandoned by her father at a young age. Shania has, in her own words, been looking for attention from men ever since then. And that has led her to lead a very promiscuous lifestyle. And this is one of the things she said I'll never forget. She said, and I'm afraid that if Mr. Right ever comes along, I've got no shot because I've just thrown my life and my body away. And so Carolyn is able to take, within 3 messages, instead of taking the gospel to this presenting issue, this superficial issue of I have a boyfriend that I shouldn't be dating, she's able to take the gospel to the heart of the matter. And you can imagine, I was in college ministry, you would never have a conversation like that face-to-face that quickly. Very efficient, very effective. Another example, we're reaching Muslims in closed countries like crazy, because if somebody in a closed Muslim country, or even an open Muslim country, has questions about Islam, or has questions about Jesus, critical questions about Islam, or curious questions about Jesus, they would never talk to another person about that. It's too threatening. But more and more of them have a smartphone or a tablet or internet access, and they can search Google. They get connected with Paul Omari, our Arabic ministry director. He's got a group of Arabic-speaking mentors, and I mean, they're doing stuff on WhatsApp. They're doing stuff on video that's just amazing. And the Lord is opening many doors. Really, there's no closed countries except maybe North Korea. North Korea's internet is still so protected that you can't hardly break into that. But It's incredible. Another reason we're excited, mentors grow as disciples as mentors are reached. So in other words, these mentors, a lot of them are people who say, man, I've walked with Jesus a long time, but I've never really shared my faith effectively with people. And they view doing this online as much more safe, much more doable. And as they do that, they see the Lord work. They see him use their efforts. They learn to pray for people they're having conversations with. They learn to frame their conversation in a way that builds relationship, but also is faithful to the gospel. And pretty soon, in many cases, we see these mentors carrying those habits offline. I've got some great stories about people who said, I've shared Christ face-to-face with somebody, and I would never have done that if I hadn't have kind of gotten my feet wet with online mentoring. Very, very exciting. And of course, another reason we're excited is because it's just so convenient. It's so accessible. Like I said, I can stay in my pajamas till 2 p.m. and do a lot of work. Paul Omari, our Arabic ministry director, is in Ottawa, Canada, former Muslim from Morocco, and so his hours are all weird because he stays up late at mentoring Muslims and he sleeps in late. You can do it from your vacation spot. You can do it from your living room. You can do it on a phone or a tablet or a laptop. You can do it here or there. You can do it everywhere. Dr. Seuss. What are we asking you to do? Well, the reason that Julie and I are here, the reason we spent some money to come out here, get a table, give this presentation, we are looking for people to become mentors or to help us identify mentors in your congregation, in your community, in your church. They can go to tmmo.io and register. You can apply and get trained. And if it's not you, then take this opportunity to other fellow believers. Pretty soon, we've created enough partnerships that pretty soon we are going to have a shortage of mentors because we have more mentor requests coming in than we have mentors to speak to them. And then the other reason we're here is if you've got a ministry that you think would benefit from adding an online component, we're willing to customize this general concept. There's about 1,000 ways we can customize it that can fit in your local church, your local community here in the States, can fit in a ministry that you know of overseas, can just be completely global, can be specific to a language group, whatever it is. We'd love to hear from you if you've got any ideas. If we set it up, it will basically look like it's yours. So, I mean, we're not trying to brand the Life Project or, kind of piggyback along all the work that you've done and get you to promote our name for us. We don't care about any of that stuff. We just have a tool that the Lord's given us that is very effective, and if we can integrate that with what you're doing and you want to act like it's yours and your people think it's yours, praise the Lord. We don't care. And it's basically free. The reason I say basically is because there are some circumstances, there's no like you have to sign up for this or you have to pay a fee per year. There are some circumstances where if you think it would be wise to advertise online to promote this site in your own context differently than what we already do, then you might incur some costs there, but that's not required. We had a video that I'm not going to play because you're not going to be able to hear it, but it's this old couple from Australia who took vacation to Canada to meet our staff and tell them how excited they are to have been mentors with us for years, and just a couple stories about how they've been able to interact with lost people, see people come to Christ who maybe would have never been reached any other way except online. And again, you can catch that.
Any of our videos are available online, and they're also on the handout sheet. We have the URL there, so on the one sheet there, you can...
Only other thing we would say is stop by our table, grab some stuff. We're table number 10 in the outer hallway there. And with that, you probably have a lot of questions because there's a ton of stuff I didn't cover. But where do you want to start? Go ahead.
What is the infrastructure for your website? Because if the traffic scales up, things can
get out of control.
Yeah. So what is the infrastructure?
I'm not a techie. We've got some really good techies up in Canada. Right now the infrastructure is suitable. We've had to do a couple upgrades as we've expanded, and we've got people smarter than me who know more about that, taking care of that, and very, very aware of that. I mean, go ahead.
Consider cloud computing.
Cloud computing.
Cloud, C-L-O-U-D, cloud computing.
Okay.
It's pay as you go, so you don't have to invest upfront.
Okay.
You use as much resources as needed.
I'll pass.
It's a very, very good way to...
I'll pass that on to our computer guys. They're probably aware of that, right? Would they be aware of it if they know anything?
If you don't know, I don't know, they know enough.
Okay,
But cloud computing.
but I mean, if you're worth your salt in this industry, you should probably know what that is, right? Yeah, okay, good. I mean, I'm not worth my salt in this industry. Go ahead.
What's your process for matching mentees with mentors?
We try to match them by gender. That's one thing. Another thing is, like in Uganda, for instance, this is just an example. We're going to set up a totally separate, we call it a separate client. So it's a separate URL for the mentors to get trained in, and a separate URL for all the content. So that when a Ugandan mentee responds through one of the articles, they get automatically connected with a Ugandan mentor. So we try to keep it geographically local, so that the mentors, at some point in some of these conversations, it's going to get to the point where it's time to get this person plugged into a Bible-believing church. And we need people who are on the ground somewhat in proximity who can say, I know about a good church in whatever city or whatever village or, this or that. So through, I think it's geo-targeting, we can kind of keep that isolated. Like I said, some ministries, they raise up like a church, a local church in Northeast Iowa. Might say, we want to do this and we want to reach people in Northeast Iowa. So we would put mentors in a separate pool of mentors, and then we would take IP addresses within maybe a 50-mile radius of that church, and any mentor request that comes in from there goes to those mentors. Does that make sense? We also have some specialized mentor training where a mentor can specifically deal with, like one example is, one of our articles is about prostitution. And so we have some women who specifically, one of them is a former prostitute, who want to specifically mentor to those kind of requests, because obviously they have more to say about that than the average person might.
And if I can intercede,
Yeah.
Another great tool is if you are a missionary and you encounter somebody that has an issue that you don't know how to respond to them, you can go on to the Issues I Face and read some of the testimonies, and then we also have articles from professionals that it will give you guidance in how to discuss that with the person that you have just met in your mission field. So we can be of help to you there as well, either through the Issues I Face articles or through the life.com, which is more faith-based articles. So we're here for you.
There are other manifestations of those sites. The Indian site is called mystruggles.in. And so we're adding content that is more culturally relevant. Yeah, thank you. I saw another hand before hers. Did someone else?
You answered the question. It was about mentoring, helping that person, whoever, to know what to say and what to do, training.
Yeah, a lot of resources available online for that. And then we've got every mentor. So one of my first questions when I've been with these guys since 2013, my first question was, how do you keep the whack jobs out? I mean, how do you keep mentors from misleading people? Well, each new mentor will be placed under a community leader. Right now, those community leaders are staff members that we have in Canada, and those community leaders are able to look in on the conversation as a kind of a third party. And part of that's quality control to keep the nut jobs out, and which we haven't really had a big problem with. And the second part of that is just coaching, like coaching mentors, because these people are new at this and kind of say, hey, you did a great job kind of building rapport in this conversation. It's probably time to turn the corner, towards spiritual things. We have mentors generally in two camps. One is the person who just wants to talk about life and encourage and pray for, but never really talk about Jesus. And you got to say, hey guys, the reason that we're here is to talk about Jesus. So let's go, and if that's not for you, then get gone. The other side is the mentor that just wants to, on the very first response, land the 4 spiritual laws or the bridge illustration, and you go, well, slow down a second. It's not that we don't want to get to the gospel, we do, but we want to build a rapport and a relationship and some trust so that when that happens, it's effective.
You got to have the right timing to it.
That's right.
On the other side of the coin, you can have mentees who are maybe clingy or who are seeking a relationship that's not appropriate.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So what do you guys do in those situations?
The mentors are trained. obvious stuff like never give your information. It's an anonymous deal, so you'll get the message and you won't know who that is, and they'll get the message and they won't know who you are. Don't talk about locale, or where you're at, or any of that. But then, I mean, if it gets to it, you can reassign them, or just kind of let your community leader know, I got a problem here, you want to look into it. There's a lot of ways to deal with that.
I was just going to ask you, you said there's no cost or anything, but in this, is being trained as a mentor free too? Anyone?
Yes.
There's no cost in that?
Yep.
And we have varying levels of mentorship as well, wherever the person feels comfortable mentoring.
Yep.
Right.
For example, like what's the slower level versus the higher?
Like basic mentoring, it would be more along the lines of where I talked about specialized mentoring. So if you want to some people, we have a relationship with a Christian radio program, and we handle all the messages that come into that radio program online. And so that all, I don't know how it works, but that all gets forwarded to our mentors. Well, did I say the radio program was for teenagers? I don't think I said that. That's a key piece of information. And so if you want to be a mentor that mentors teens, there's a whole other level of training and a background check and this kind of stuff. Whereas the more basic mentoring would, just give you access to just kind of general messages that come into our general pool, or general messages that come into your pool if we set something up specifically in your context. Yeah.
How long does the relationship last? Is it a one-time,
Yeah.
for 6 hours, y'all are typing furiously, or is it days, months?
It's a good question. It varies.
Okay.
So it's not often 6 hours, because it functions, at least the English North American side functions like emails going back and forth. So, I mean, we ask mentors to get back in 12 or 24 hours, and so that extends the conversation. Now,
So
when
it's
you
not
get,
like an IM?
No.
You're not texting or emailing?
Right.
we
Okay.
do,
It's in your
We have a
bag.
chat room.
Oh, your phone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't stop in a second. By the time I get back to there,
there is a chat ministry. So one of the specialized ways you can be trained as a mentor is a chat mentor, and then that is boom, boom, boom. Some of the conversations, like Carolyn and Shania, that went on for months, if not more than a year. And we're talking about maybe a couple messages a week. And what Carolyn found out about this woman, I mean, she heard somebody, she said, I've never had anyone care this much about me, to just walk with me like this, to share your faith. There's just a lot of discipleship and healing. One of the things I had to get over in this ministry is I kind of thought, like, online is kind of ministry light, like diet ministry, and face-to-face is real ministry. And that's those of us that are not digital natives, that's kind of how we approach it. But for a lot of these people that are digital natives, this is as real as it gets. And that might be concerning, but that's where they're at. And we need to be there with the gospel.
And we also find that there are people in churches who are just not comfortable going to their pastor and saying, I've been looking at porn during my lunch break and I think it's affecting how I'm treating my wife. Because they don't want to be lowered in the eyes of their priest or pastor, but they'll be happy to talk to somebody anonymously online. And then hopefully that person will lead them to, hey, you need to have confession here. But it works both ways. It's not just the unchurched, but we are also finding people that are, who are churched or maybe not appropriately churched.
Yeah.
Yes. To push the technology.
Yes.
To do it further. I think the next step could be to use the artificial intelligence technology.
Yes.
Already developed. So several years ago, IBM has this machine that beat human beings in this jeopardy.
Yes.
So I think if they can do that, I think answering some of the basic questions.
Yes.
The computer can take care of some of it, and more specialized, personal stuff.
Absolutely.
Mentor.
If you do a lot of pre-screening.
When I went to Faith Leads Tech, that conference where I saw that graphic that inspired me, they were talking about that, and on our team, we've got some people on the tech side that are talking about that for the exact reason you said, pre-screen, and you can start to figure out where people are coming from and exactly who do we need to send them to without having to have human involvement with that.
The data is very important for us to do some machine learning so that we can find out more about who is asking what and what about their background. That helps us to plan our strategies.
Yes. we're on that, and that just blows my mind. I mean, when you think about the possibilities there, that's incredible. And a little scary, but incredible. Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, not entirely, because I think you're talking about, you have all of the data already, of all of your conversations
Right.
available, then you take these algorithms and you say, where are the patterns?
Filter everything through there, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It starts to figure out the patterns that
Yeah.
are the common threads.
Yep.
And then you start to either develop more specialized
Content in this way,
content,
yeah, exactly.
you know, that goes deeper, or you use that to figure out more natural paths
Yes.
to move towards. It's very powerful.
You guys both seem to get this very well. If you'd like to join staff talking about it.
You're saying that the key is like for teens. Does that apply for like anyone? College students in their life, just probably elder
Yes.
people if they're suffering loss of faith or something that they're going through.
Not
13
just
to that.
teens.
Not just
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
13 to 113.
And what's amazing is people hear this and they think, oh, it's online, it's techie. And so they self-select themselves, like a 60-year-old woman might say, I could never be a good mentor because that's a techie thing for the young kids. Our best mentors, this is just not to chase anyone else away who falls outside this, but our best mentors are 60-plus-year-old women. And the reason is because they tend to have more compassion and care, like they care more than I do, that's for sure, and just empathetic. Number two, they've got the wisdom of years and the maturity of their faith. And number three, they tend to have more time. And so if you're thinking, man, this sounds really cool, but I could never do it because I don't even know how to use Facebook this is very easy. You just set up an account and it functions like email and it's not threatening at all. And so in our team in Canada, our mentor support team is, I've only heard good things from people who are mentors at this conference about, oh, Kim, tell Kim hi. You know, and it's great people who help you through all that. Yeah.
What kind of a time commitment would someone be expected?
You can set your settings. You can take any number of messages a week that you want. You can take them on a certain day. You can shut off new messages if you've got conversations ongoing. So let's say you want to do a message a week. But let's say for 4 weeks the messages keep going and going. And so you're maintaining 4 conversations and adding a 5th, you can shut that off. You can go on vacation and turn it off. There's settings that are variable and you can manage that. Yeah.
You mentioned reaching people 13 and up. Is there any issue here or in the EU with communicating with 13-year-olds and up to
Yep.
13? How do you handle that?
The more specialized training that I was talking about with him. So we've got the Christian radio program, Dawson McAllister, I think is the name of it. And so you've got these teenage kids that write into that, and their messages get sent to our mentors. But those mentors have to be specifically trained a more thorough background check, this kind of stuff.
So you don't need parental permission or anything like that to do it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
What if they don't tell you they're 13?
Right, I mean, that's exactly the thing,
Yeah.
is you can't, I mean, I can be talking to a 13-year-old that says they're 26, so, yeah.
How do people find you? Is it just through like a Google search or like how do you market?
Great. So we do a little bit of Google AdWords to promote certain, like if anyone wants to do this right now, you could Google emotional abandonment, and I don't know where it is right now, but our article used to be like 4th or 6th on the first thing of lists, the issuesiface.com article on emotional abandonment. And that's because there wasn't a lot of content online about emotional abandonment. Now our article on depression, 4th? Wow. So if you search depression, it's like there's gazillion articles about depression, and we haven't even cracked the top 100 pages probably of responses. So there's that. We promote stuff on Facebook and through social media, just links with kind of a teaser that says if you're struggling with anorexia, here's an article or whatever. We're also creating partnerships with other ministries. For instance, the Jesus Film Project, they're here. We're in the process of finalizing a partnership with them where at the end of all the different videos they have, there's a mentor request form. We also have just a generic URL for a mentor request form. So if you don't want to, some churches will put a little widget on their Facebook page that says there's anonymous online mentoring available, and here's the address. And so it's not tied to a specific issue, but it's just for somebody in the church who wants to talk about something that they don't, privately, that they don't want to talk about.
Is it extra to have that widget?
What's that?
Is it extra to put that widget on there?
I have to check on that. We haven't done much of that lately because we've been kind of growing in another direction, but we're not going to get rid of that. There might be a very minimal, like, techie, whatever that's called.
I can do it, but I can link to you, that's fine.
Oh, yeah. You don't need to pay us for the rights to do that at all.
Okay.
I was just saying if you had to pay someone to put that on. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was your question.
So how are you funded?
You want to give another 15 minutes speech?
President and missionary funded.
So
legitimate question.
the crew model, Campus Crusade, is staff members raise their own support. So like I raise my own support, but then also Julie raises her own support. If you want to support Julie, she's got a card downstairs. I think our budget right now is about $700,000 or $800,000 a year, but about $300,000 or $400,000 of that is covered by staff who are raising their own support. So then myself and a couple of our other key leaders, one of our jobs is to go out and raise money. So we're raising money from private donors, and I've got to raise $75,000 before the end of the year, which has got me a little freaked out right now. But the Lord has been faithful for the last 7 years, so He'll continue to be.
Do your mentors also have to raise money?
No. That we would have zero mentors if they did. We would encourage our mentors to get involved financially. That's one thing. That's one group we haven't tapped into really because they're given a lot of time. But some of them have money, and some of them are really passionate about this ministry. So we need to turn that corner. We are 4 minutes late. Go ahead.
Just one more question.
There's no one after us, so maybe the conversation that's going to take care of there can take care here. Go ahead.
Thank you all for your interest.
For the rich people that we want to reach, many of them are poor.
Many of them are poor.
Yeah, they, let's say India and Bangladesh.
Yes.
They don't have internet access.
Right.
How do we extend this approach that we have to people who do not easily have internet access? I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
In India,
Yes.
the whole village might have one internet access. And that's a retail store that
Yes.
Amazon in contact and they can order stuff to that one.
Yes.
So what can we do? Just one internet for the whole village?
My answer to that is maybe not the official position of our ministry. So this is just me shooting from the hip. My assumption is that over time, that's going to fix itself. More and more people are going to eventually have internet access. And in the meantime, there are so many people that we can reach among those who do have internet access that I'm going to leave that to Apple and Google to figure out how to get them internet access. And until then, I'm going to work on the people who I do have access to. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you do it through data on smartphones at all, or only strictly through like computer internet?
Oh, data, yeah. Any way that you can reach the internet. So through data or through wireless. We're doing some integration with WhatsApp, which is huge in international, in other parts of the world.
Yes.
And some other integrations. I can't remember all the names of them.
I
But.
can answer that question about internet. SpaceX has filled up satellites, is putting satellites, and there's going to be a worldwide internet access.
That is one way if we have satellite.
Yeah.
The people don't have computer. They're too poor to buy a computer. They
Yeah.
cannot type back.
Right.
Right?
But can you imagine, can you imagine the incentives for, what's the Apple guy's name now? Not Jobs. Tim Cook and Bezos and all these guys to get computers in these people's hands and get them internet access?
Well,
They
Facebook
tried
has a
it.
Facebook Zero initiative that they were, I don't know if they still are, they were pushing it in Africa, but look, you don't need data to reach Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much they want to pull people in.
Right. And I mean, it's not because they care about people, it's because they want money.
They want to sell ads,
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's a little bit of a red herring in that I think people have cell phones throughout the world pretty much, and it's amazing how much I'm always amazed when I go places, I'm thinking people are really poor and yet they have a cell phone.
That's right. Yeah.
But the really poor don't even have cell phone.
You're right.
Because cell phone need a cell tower. If the place don't have a cell tower, you have a cell phone, what
Yeah.
is it?
Well, I've sure been in places I thought were really poor, and all of a sudden I was surprised. That's-
So my deal is, if we've got up to 4 billion people with internet access right now, we've got more work to do
Yeah.
for the sake of the gospel among those 4 billion people than we could ever get done by the time the remaining 4 billion get internet access.
But those people who you cannot reach would die every day.
I know it.
But that's missionaries who are boots on the ground. You know,
But-
I mean, you know, we can't solve every problem in the world.
I know,
Only
I know.
Christ can do
So
that.
how do we extend this approach to,
Yeah.
I mean, there?
It's gotta be a ministry out there.
You got to have boots on the ground. There's no other way. But I would just say, there's a great verse that I use in a presentation that I'm not going to remember, and it's from Proverbs, or it's the Old Testament somewhere, and it basically says, to some the Lord gives the task of doing the work, and to others He gives the task of reaping the harvest. And the way that we think about this is all kinds of pagans who run Facebook and Google and Apple, they're out there doing this work to get internet access to all these people, and they think it's about the Benjamins, which to them it is. It's about the money. But we get as soon as they get internet access, we get to reap the harvest because we've got the gospel going out there. And it's just like, an awesome, awesome deal that the Lord would, in His infinite wisdom, say, I'm going to raise up a couple clowns who don't know me, and they're going to be very, very smart and innovative, and we're going to use the things that they put in place to deliver the gospel to more people than we've ever had access to before.